Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are tackling a financial system that is, well, absolutely critical for the future stability of millions of people.
Hmm,
Yet it often feels, I don't know, deliberately complex, almost shrouded in bureaucracy.
it really can.
We are talking about India's national pension system, the NPS.
It's a system you have to have, but it's also one where the devil is truly in the details.
How so?
What you can be contributing diligently for decades, but if you don't understand the specific architecture, the investment rules,
Right.
and, most critically, the restrictions around withdrawal and exit,
Mm-hmm.
you can really undermine your own retirement security without even knowing it.
That is precisely our mission today. We are taking the stack of sources you provided, the regulatory filings, the detailed scheme documents, the investment mandates,
All fun stuff.
and giving you the definitive shortcut to being profoundly well-informed about the inner workings of this massive, defined contribution scheme.
We need to go beyond just the acronyms.
Yes, we need to explain the consequences of the rules. Okay, let's unpack this right from the very foundation.
Let's do it.
When we talk about retirement schemes globally, we usually put them in two big buckets, defined benefit and defined contribution.
Right.
Historically, a lot of government schemes were defined benefit. You were promised a fixed payout. Where exactly does the NPS sit, and why is that distinction so fundamental?
So the NPS is fundamentally and irrevocably a defined contribution scheme.
Okay.
And that is the single most vital piece of information you need to grasp from the get-go.
And what does that mean in simple terms?
It means the system is completely market-linked. You, the subscriber, contribute to the fund, but the final value of your retirement corpus is entirely determined by two variables.
Which are?
Your total contributions, obviously, and the market returns those investments generate over time.
So it's nothing like a traditional pension where the government guarantees you a specific monthly income no matter how the market performs.
Not at all. Here, the risk, and to be fair, the reward sits squarely with you, the subscriber.
Right.
There is no guaranteed final payout value. The benefit is defined only by the accumulated corpus you manage to build.
Which makes the investment choices, the costs, the duration,
Yeah,
all the things we're going to dive into, absolutely pivotal.
exactly. This is a system where time and market performance are your primary tools. You have to use them wisely.
And for a system this massive, managing billions in assets for millions of people, you must have an ironclad regulatory framework.
You'd hope so.
What is the institutional backbone that ensures the governance and security of the NPS?
The regulatory backbone is the Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority.
Or PFRDA?
PFRDA, yes.
Mhm.
And PFRDA isn't just another government body. It was established as a statutory authority specifically to regulate and develop the entire pension sector.
And its power comes from?
Its power and legitimacy stem from the passage and notification of the PFRDA Act in 2013, which became effective on February 1st, 2014.
That date is interesting. It implies that before 2014, the sector was
Wayland.
less regulated.
It lacked that comprehensive, dedicated governance. The Act really solidified its mandate.
So what does that mandate actually cover? What does the PFRDA do day to day?
Oh, its mandate is vast. It's not just creating investment guidelines, like the 75% equity cap we'll discuss later.
Okay.
It's also responsible for ensuring the system's operational security, setting standards for all the intermediaries, the point-of-presence entities.
And handling complaints, I imagine?
Critically, yes, managing the grievance redressal mechanism. If a pension fund manager or some other intermediary fails to perform, the PFRDA has the power to penalize them.
So they're the ultimate protector of the subscriber's interests.
That's their role, to ensure systemic trust.
Okay, let's get practical. For me, the individual saver, if I start contributing today, how does the system recognize me across decades, across different jobs? What's my unique identifier?
That brings us to the key identifier for every single NPS participant, the Permanent Retirement Account Number,
The PR man.
the PARIN. It's a 12-digit unique code, similar to other major financial identifiers. But what sets it apart is its extreme utility and the philosophy behind its design.
Tell me more about that utility. It's more than just a number.
Oh, absolutely. Crucially, the PARIN is designed to be portable across employers and locations.
That's a big deal.
It's a huge deal. Think about the modern workforce. People jump from government service to the private sector, or they become self-employed consultants.
Right, you're not in one job for 40 years anymore.
Exactly. In older legacy schemes, that kind of transition often meant complex, time-consuming transfers and a potential loss of continuity. With the PARIN, your retirement account just It moves with you
Seamlessly.
seamlessly.
Yeah.
It is your consistent, lifelong savings vehicle, which is a significant and I think often underrated feature. It's designed for a highly mobile economy.
Now we're moving from the concept to the actual structure.
Yeah.
And when you look under the hood of the NPS, you see something a bit unusual. The source material describes an unbundled architecture. Why do that? Why go through the trouble of separating all these functions? Why not just have one massive single entity managing everything?
The unbundled architecture is, I think, a masterstroke in governance and risk management.
That's high praise.
It is. It's a deliberate design choice, and it's aimed at achieving two goals: security and transparency.
How does separating things achieve that?
By separating authority and responsibility among multiple independent constituents, the PFRDA, the trust, the CRA, the PFMs, the system prevents the concentration of decision-making authority in any single place.
So it's basically a financial firewall system.
Precisely. It dramatically reduces the risk of misuse, fraud, and overall systemic failure.
I see. So if one part fails, the others can contain the damage.
Exactly. If one constituent has operational issues or if governance fails in one area, the integrity of the assets and the records remains protected by the others. It creates checks and balances on a massive scale.
So the system is more complex to explain, but it's far more secure to actually participate in.
That's the trade-off.
Okay, so if we follow the money, who is the ultimate guardian of the assets? Who has the highest legal responsibility to protect my money, the subscriber's interest?
That highest legal duty that rests with the NPS Trust.
The NPS Trust.
Their primary function is non-negotiable: to hold and manage the assets and funds that are generated from subscriber contributions, and to do so in the subscriber's beneficial interest.
And they have a special legal obligation.
They carry the fiduciary responsibility. That's the highest legal obligation of finance. They have to protect the funds.
So they don't pick the stocks, but they make sure everyone else is playing by the rules.
You got it. They are the passive yet ultimate security layer. They don't make investment choices, but they ensure that everyone else adheres to the rules set in place to protect the corpus.
All right, let's trace the user journey. Before my money ever reaches the trust or the pension fund managers, where do I, the average subscriber, even start the process?
Your first point of contact is the point of presence, or POP.
A POP.
Yeah. These are the frontline interfaces. They're often scheduled commercial banks, regional rural banks, or other financial intermediaries that are impaneled by the PFRDA.
So my local bank branch, for example.
Could be.
And what are their core practical functions for me? What do they actually do?
They're the accessibility layer. Their key functions include providing information to new subscribers, accepting your initial registration forms and KYC documents,
Oh, the paperwork.
all the initial paperwork, and then processing your ongoing contribution requests. They digitize your entry into the system and make sure you comply with all the identity verification standards. They make the NPS accessible to the public.
Okay, so the POP has processed my contribution. Who then takes responsibility for the massive long-term data infrastructure? I mean, keeping records for millions of accounts over 40 years must be a huge job.
It is a monumental task,
All right.
and that infrastructure backbone is managed by the Central Record Keeping Agency, or CRA. Their core responsibility is purely technological and logistical, to build, operate, and maintain the complex, secure infrastructure for the entire NPS system. They manage every transaction, every change in fund value, every personal detail across all subscribers.
And they're the ones who send me my account details, my passwords, that sort of thing.
Correct. The CRA issues all those essential access tools for you. The physical PAN card, along with the digital credentials like the user ID, the IP-KIN for online transactions, and the TPIN for telephone services.
Well, if I lose my password, I'm dealing with the CRA, not my bank.
Exactly. The accuracy of the CRA is absolutely paramount to subscriber trust.
So we have the POP taking the money and the CRA recording it. Finally, when I reach retirement, that big accumulated corpus needs to be converted into a monthly income.
Yeah.
Who manages that specific critical transition?
Those are the annuity service providers, or ASPs.
And who are they?
They are specifically life insurance companies impaneled by the PFRDA. Their entire service is dedicated to one thing: providing the annuity.
The actual pension.
The guaranteed monthly stream of pension income to you after you exit the accumulation phase. They take the required lump sum portion of your corpus and transform it into that reliable, periodic income, fulfilling the whole promise of retirement security. #TAG3, the 2 tiers and contribution requirements.
That structural framework is, it's clearly designed for maximum security.
It is.
Now let's shift focus entirely to the subscriber's interaction. NPS offers two types of accounts, and this confuses a lot of first-time investors, Tier 1 and Tier 2. Can you clarify the fundamental difference? Let's focus on purpose and liquidity.
Yeah, this distinction is absolutely crucial for financial planning. Tier 1 is the core, non-negotiable retirement savings account.
It's a main one.
It is mandatory for the retirement goal, and its defining feature is the severe restrictions on the withdrawal of funds before you meet the specific exit conditions.
So it's a locked box for your old age.
Essentially, yes.
Yeah.
And to open it, the minimum initial contribution is pretty accessible. It's just Rs 500.
Okay, so that's Tier 1. What about Tier 2?
Tier 2 is a voluntary account, and you can only open a Tier 2 if you already have a Tier I account.
Ah, so it's an add-on.
It's an add-on. Think of it as a supplemental, flexible investment vehicle that's linked to your PRAN.
And the big difference is liquidity.
The massive difference is liquidity. The funds in Tier 2 can generally be withdrawn at any time for any purpose.
Really?
Yes, it makes it highly liquid and actually quite useful for medium-term savings goals, even though it carries the same market risk as Tier 1.
And the minimum to open that one?
The initial minimum contribution for Tier 2 is a bit higher at Rs 1,000.
So that separation is clever. It ensures the core retirement money in Tier I isn't just dipped into while still giving you a low-cost investment avenue in Tier 2.
Precisely.
But keeping that locked box, Tier 1, active requires some discipline. What are the minimum requirements to keep it operational, and what happens if I fail to meet them?
Consistency is vital, and the minimum annual contribution required to keep your Tier I account active is just Rs 1,000
Per year.
per year. And this can be made in one single contribution or spread out, as long as at least one of those contributions is not less than Rs 500.
And what if that's a pretty low threshold, but what if it isn't met?
If you don't meet it, the account becomes dormant.
What does that mean? Is the money gone?
No, the money's still there. A dormant account remains active, but you can't put any new contributions in until you reactivate it, which involves paying a penalty.
But there's a real danger, isn't there, for small accounts?
There is. The real danger is long-term, especially for small balances. A dormant account will be automatically closed if its value eventually falls to zero.
How would that happen?
Well, maybe due to accrued administrative charges eating away at a very small initial balance over many years. It just underscores that while the contribution amount is small, the discipline is non-negotiable.
Speaking of discipline, we need tools that make consistency easy. A lot of people want to treat their retirement contributions like a systematic investment plan, an SIP.
Of course,
Does the NPS infrastructure support that kind of automated approach?
it absolutely does. And this is where the DREMIT facility comes in.
DREMIT.
It's designed specifically for maximizing contribution consistency. Its whole purpose is to facilitate simple, online voluntary contributions.
And the key benefit is the automation.
The key benefit, and the one that mimics an SIP perfectly, is the ability for you to set up standing instructions for auto debit.
So it just comes out of my bank account every month.
Exactly. This automation removes that cognitive burden of having to remember to manually initiate transactions every month or quarter.
Yeah.
For subscribers, DREMIT is the pathway to true investment discipline.
Now let's pivot back to the origins of the NPS, the government sector. For central government employees who joined after January 1st, 2004, their contributions are mandatory and fixed.
That's right.
What are the specific contribution rates for the employee and for the government itself?
This is a great example of the defined contribution model being implemented with a very strong employer component. The employee is required to contribute 10% of their salary
And that's salary defined
as basic pay plus dearness allowance, or basic plus DA.
Okay. And the government.
The crucial difference is the government's commitment. The employer contributes a substantially higher matching amount, 14% of the salary to the employee's individual pension account.
Wow, 14%. Why that difference? Why 14% from the government compared to only 10% from the employee?
It's a policy decision, really. It's designed in part to sweeten the deal and compensate employees for the loss of the older, guaranteed defined benefit pension scheme.
So it's an acknowledgement of the new risk they're taking on.
It is. It recognizes the significant responsibility shift onto the employee under a market-linked system. And it aims to give the corpus a substantial, immediate boost through a higher employer match. It reflects the government's long-term commitment.
And these government subscribers, they also have a specific, unique option within the Tier 2 structure that gives a tax benefit, right?
They do. That is the NPS Tier 2 Tax Saver Scheme, or NPS TTS.
And what's the deal with that?
This scheme allows central government employees to claim tax benefits under Section 80C of the Income Tax Act, which is a major draw.
But there's a catch.
There's always a catch with tax benefits. Unlike the regular super liquid Tier 2 account, because it carries a tax advantage,
Yeah.
this specific NPS-PTS investment comes with a mandatory 3-year lock-in period. It forces the capital to stay invested long enough to serve a genuine medium-term savings purpose.
Now we arrive at the heart of the market-linked nature of the MPS. This is where all the risk and hopefully the potential reward live.
Right.
Since the final outcome isn't guaranteed, what are the 3 fundamental intertwined factors that actually determine how big my final retirement corpus will be?
I like to think of it as a 3-legged stool supporting your retirement.
Okay.
First, obviously, the amount of contributions made.
Yeah.
Consistency and size matter.
Like one.
Second, the returns earned on the contribution. This is entirely dependent on your chosen asset allocation and how well the pension fund managers perform.
Like 2.
And third, and arguably the most powerful factor, is the period for which the accumulation is made.
Time in the market.
Time in the market. The longer your money sits, the more years you benefit from compounding, where your returns start earning their own returns.
Yeah.
A delay of just a few years in starting can have a catastrophic impact decades later because of that lost compounding time.
Let's break down the ingredients being compounded. What are the 4 core asset classes? I see them here as E, C, G, A used in the NPS portfolio. What risk profile does each one bring?
So the funds are strategically diversified across these 4 classes.
Right.
E stands for equity.
Stocks.
Stocks. It's the engine for long-term growth, but it carries the highest volatility and risk.
Okay.
C is for corporate bonds. These are debt instruments issued by credit-rated companies. They offer lower volatility and more moderate returns compared to equity.
Right.
G is for government securities. This is the safest debt class. And finally, A is for alternative investments. This covers things like real estate investment trusts, REITs, infrastructure investment trusts, INVITs, and alternative investment funds, AIFs.
So more unconventional stuff.
Less conventional, potentially higher return, but also less liquid assets.
Let's focus on that G category for a second, government securities. In a scheme that's focused on growth, why prioritize a low return asset? What specific risk does investing in GSECs eliminate?
GSECs are the safety anchor of the whole portfolio.
Okay.
They're included precisely because they mitigate the most significant threat in the bond market, credit risk or risk of default.
Meaning the risk that the borrower won't pay you back.
Exactly. When the government issues a bond, the risk of non-payment is, well, it's essentially zero. This makes them a benchmark for stability. They act as a crucial stabilizing component, balancing out the significant volatility you get from the equity exposure.
So you need assets that are guaranteed to be there when you need them.
Even if the returns are modest, yes, you need that foundation.
Okay, we know the asset classes. Now, who are the actors actually making the investment decisions within those classes? And how do they communicate the performance back to me?
Those are the pension fund managers, or PFMs. They are professional financial entities appointed by the PFRDA and very strictly regulated. Their job is to actively invest the contributions according to the mandated guidelines, manage the portfolio,
And tell us how they're doing.
and crucially, declare the scheme's performance via the net asset value, or NAV, on a daily basis. They are the operational arm of the investment engine.
For our meticulous listener, let's get into the mechanics of that NAV. Since the whole thing is market-linked, how exactly is the net asset value calculated every day to reflect the true worth of my units?
Yeah, transparency requires that daily accountability. Because the scheme is marked to market daily, the NAV calculation gives you an accurate unit price.
And the formula?
It's pretty standard across the industry. You take the current market value of securities plus value of current assets plus accrued expenses, current liabilities, and you divide all of that by the total number of outstanding units.
So it's a true reflection of the underlying asset's value at the end of each day.
It is. This daily calculation ensures that every new contribution and every withdrawal is priced accurately, which maintains fairness and trust in the system.
That daily marking to market prevents any opacity. Now, before we jump into the investment strategies themselves, I want to clarify a restriction we saw in the sources.
Yep.
Can these PFMs invest our enormous retirement funds outside of India to, say, chase global returns in the U.S. market or Europe?
That is a firm line in the sand. No.
No at all.
PFMs are strictly prohibited from directly or indirectly investing subscriber funds outside India. The investment universe for the NPS is confined entirely to the domestic market.
And the reasoning for that?
It reflects a mandate to utilize these long-term funds to support the Indian economy while also maintaining tight regulatory control over the assets.
Excellent. Now let's tackle the two core ways a subscriber can choose their allocation. Active choice versus auto choice.
Right.
Starting with active choice. If I want to manage my own money, how much granular control do I actually have over the allocations? And what are the specific limitations, especially on that riskiest one, asset class A?
Active choice gives you the steering wheel. You manually decide the allocation ratio across E, C, and G.
And I can even pick my manager.
You can. You can select up to 3 different pension funds to manage these allocations, which allows you to mix and match management styles.
But there are guardrails.
There are safety nets. The allocation to asset class A alternative investments is restricted to a maximum of 5%. This ensures that the high-risk, low liquidity, and complexity of alternative assets are only a marginal component of your core retirement portfolio.
Okay, so active choice requires constant monitoring decision-making. Not everyone is comfortable with that.
Not at all.
For those who want the market exposure but prefer a risk management safety net, we have auto choice. What defines this mechanism?
Auto choice is the default. It's the set it and forget it option, often called a life cycle fund.
And what does that mean? Life cycle.
It's defined by dynamic allocation. This means your investment pattern isn't static. It adjusts automatically based on the single most critical factor, your age.
So it changes over time on its own.
Yes. The core principle is just sensible risk mitigation. Your exposure to equity automatically decreases as you get older. It systematically shifts your assets towards safer, less volatile debt instruments like C and G.
And if a subscriber chooses auto choice but doesn't specify which life cycle fund they want, is there a system default? What is it?
Yes, there is. If you opt for auto choice but you forget to specify the risk level, say LC75 for aggressive, LC50 for moderate, or LC25 for conservative,
The system has to put you somewhere.
it defaults you to the LC50 option, which is the moderate life cycle fund. This ensures that even the most passive investor still benefits from a balanced, automatically de-risking portfolio over time.
Regardless of the choice, Tier 1 is the core retirement savings vehicle, and it has a safety ceiling on risk. What is the absolute hard cap on equity exposure in Tier 1?
To prevent excessive market volatility from, wiping out decades of savings, Tier I enforces a hard cap of 75% maximum exposure to the equity asset class.
So even the most aggressive option can't go beyond that.
Correct. Even the most aggressive life cycle fund, LC75, will not exceed that limit, and that cap automatically reduces as you age.
Under the auto choice option, that reallocation is dynamic. How often does that rebalancing actually happen? What determines the timing?
The timing is very specific and systematic. The automatic reallocation process, which shifts the exposure from equity to debt as you get older, is executed precisely on the subscriber's birthday each year.
On your birthday.
On your birthday. It ensures the asset mix aligns with your mathematically declining risk tolerance.
But my risk tolerance can change because of life events, not just my age. Or what if market conditions shift dramatically and I want to switch from active to auto choice? How flexible is the system for making those strategic changes?
The system actually allows for significant strategic flexibility.
Good.
You can change your investment option, switching between active choice and auto choice, and at the same time change your specific asset allocation ratios up to 4 times in a financial year.
So once a quarter.
Once a quarter. This flexibility allows you to respond to major life events, market cycles, or just changes in your personal financial philosophy.
Let's circle back and apply this to the government model. Historically, government employees had very limited investment choice.
Extremely limited.
What specific freedoms were granted to them regarding investment patterns starting April 1st, 2019?
April 1st, 2019 was a watershed moment for them. Since that date, government subscribers gained the option to decide their own investment pattern.
And choose their manager.
And significantly, they were allowed to choose any pension fund, including the private sector PFMs. Before this, they were often restricted to just 1 or 2 government-appointed managers. It provided much-needed competition and choice.
And what are the specific life cycle funds tailored to government subscribers whose mandate is traditionally more conservative?
Given the historical policy focus on stability for public servants, yes, they have access to 2 specific life cycle funds designed with lower equity caps.
And those are?
The LC25, with a max of 25% equity, and the LC50, with a max of 50% equity.
So notice, even their most aggressive option, LC50, is still what the main scheme calls moderate.
Exactly. It's substantially lower than the maximum 75% cap available under the all-citizen active choice model. It's a more conservative default path.
Now, I want to return to the cost structure, which the source material really emphasizes as one of the NPS's greatest advantages.
It is.
How economical are the fund management charges compared to, say, retail mutual funds? And what does that low cost mean over a 30-year compounding period?
This is where the NPS truly shines as a wealth accumulator. It is engineered to be one of the lowest cost retirement schemes in the world.
What are the numbers?
The fund management charges currently range between an incredibly low 0.03% to 0.09% per annum, depending on the assets under management.
0.03%. That sounds small, but what's the real impact?
The impact is exponential. Actively managed retail mutual funds in India, they often charge 1.5% to 2% annually.
A huge difference.
Over a 30-year career, saving even 1% in management fees might not sound like much. But when that 1% is compounded year after year, it means the NPS subscriber is retaining hundreds of thousands or even tens of lakhs more in their final corpus.
Just because less of their money is being siphoned off in fees.
Exactly. The low expense ratio is a structural multiplier for your retirement pot.
Finally, to ensure the governance of the PFMs is sound, what specific investment guideline exists to prevent a manager from, say, prioritizing investment in their own corporate group's companies? That seems like a massive conflict of interest.
It would be. And there's a crucial diversification and governance rule to prevent that kind of self-dealing.
Okay.
The guideline strictly limits a pension fund manager's equity exposure to group companies of its sponsoring entity.
And the limit is?
That exposure is limited to the lower of two things, either 5% of the non-sponsor group company's paid-up capital or 5% of the AUM under equity exposure.
So it's a tight leash.
It's a powerful safeguard. It forces PFMs to diversify their investments externally and protects subscriber funds from being channeled internally into riskier or less transparent related entities. #V exit rules and the annuitization mandate.
We've established how the money is managed and grown. Now we have to address the most crucial planning stage, the exit.
The end game.
Since the NPS is fundamentally designed to provide income during old age, there is a strong mandate to convert the corpus into an income stream. Why is that annuity function so mandatory? What's its goal?
The mandatory annuity is the protective layer of the whole defined contribution scheme.
Protective how?
It ensures that the primary goal of the system, which is providing an assured stream of income, a pension, post-retirement, is actually met.
Because otherwise people might just spend the lump sum too quickly.
Exactly. Without this mandate, a retiree might withdraw the entire lump sum and quickly consume it, potentially leaving themselves financially vulnerable years later. The annuity converts the savings into a predictable lifelong cash flow. It secures basic financial stability.
Let's look at the conditions for a normal exit, which is at age 60 or superannuation for most subscribers in the all-citizen and corporate models. What's the minimum percentage of the corpus that must be converted into that assured income stream?
Upon normal exit, a minimum of 40% of your accumulated corpus must be utilized to purchase an annuity from one of the approved annuity service providers.
So 40% is locked in for monthly income.
At a minimum. The remaining 60% is available for you to withdraw as a lump sum.
Is that withdrawal of the 60% optional? Can I annuitize more if I want to?
Yes, absolutely. While 40% is the minimum for annuitization, you can choose to annuitize more, even up to 100% if you prefer a larger monthly pension over a lump sum.
But you can take up to 60% as a lump sum.
Correct. And very importantly, that 60% is tax exempt, which we'll get to.
Now, is there an exception to that 40% mandatory annuitization rule? What if my corpus is relatively small at retirement?
There is a very important exception for that. It's to ensure that subscribers with small savings don't have to deal with the complexity of buying an annuity contract.
And the threshold is?
If your accumulated corpus at the time of normal exit is equal to or less than Rs 5 lakhs, you are permitted to withdraw the entire amount as a lump sum.
So you bypass the annuity requirement completely?
Completely. It ensures simplicity for those lower balance accounts.
That's the normal path. But what about a premature exit leaving the system before age 60? Given the system's long-term focus, I expect this to be significantly more difficult.
It is extremely restrictive. It's designed to discourage any leakage from the system.
What are the conditions?
2 primary conditions must be met. First, you must have participated for a minimum period of 10 years. You can't just withdraw early after a year or two.
Okay, 10 years. And the second?
Second, the annuitization mandate is significantly higher to maintain that retirement protection. At least 80% of the accumulated corpus must be utilized for purchasing an annuity.
80%.
80, which leaves only 20% available for a lump sum withdrawal. The financial consequences are steep. It forces you to commit nearly all your savings to income generation.
Even with those stringent exit rules, people sometimes face real financial emergencies mid-career. The system allows for partial withdrawal. How is the allowable amount calculated? And what funds are specifically excluded from that calculation?
Partial withdrawal is very highly controlled. The maximum allowable withdrawal is capped at 25% of the contributions made exclusively by the subscriber.
Okay, that's a crucial nuance.
It is. What is specifically excluded from that calculation is any employer contributions and, most importantly, any returns or appreciation earned on the corpus over time.
So it's strictly 25% of the capital I personally put in.
That's it.
And if I exercise that option early on, what's the financial risk? Going back to that three-legged stool we talked about.
The associated risk is the opportunity cost of compounding. It's huge.
Explain.
Withdrawing funds early, even just 25% of your personal contribution, limits the benefits of compounding on the remaining corpus. This leakage, if you take it early in your saving cycle, means that the lost capital and, crucially, the lost returns on that lost capital can lead to a significantly lower final corpus at retirement.
It's a sacrifice of future wealth for present liquidity.
A very expensive one.
Now, let's address a regulatory philosophy point. The rules for handling the corpus upon the death of a subscriber differ dramatically depending on whether they were under the all-citizen corporate model or the government model.
They do.
Let's start with the private and citizen models.
In the all-citizen and corporate models, the approach is very simple. It treats the savings purely as an investment product. The rule is that the entire corpus shall be paid as a lump sum to the nominee.
So no mandatory annuity for the family.
No, the entire fund is liquidated and paid out.
Why does that differ so much if the deceased was a government sector subscriber who dies before superannuation? What drives this philosophical difference?
This is, I think, a remnant of the old defined benefit mindset that still influences government policy.
How so?
In the government sector, if the subscriber dies before superannuation, the system mandates that at least 80% of the accumulated wealth must be mandatorily utilized for the purchase of an annuity for the nominee or legal heirs.
80%, just like a premature withdrawal.
Yes. So in the government sector, even upon death, the system prioritizes lifelong income security for the dependents over a lump sum payout.
So the regulatory philosophy is to ensure the surviving family unit gets an assured stream of income rather than leaving them vulnerable to depleting a large lump sum.
Precisely. It sacrifices immediate liquidity for long-term protection of the dependents. It reflects the state's perceived obligation to its employees' families.
We established that Tier 1 is mandatory for retirement and Tier 2 is voluntary. If I reach retirement and exit Tier 1, what happens to my liquid Tier 2 account?
They are inextricably linked by your prayer. So, upon your exit from Tier I, whether it's normal retirement, premature exit, or death, the Tier 2 account shall also be simultaneously closed.
No choice in the matter.
No choice. The accumulated amounts in that voluntary account will be paid out as a lump sum to you or your nominees. You cannot keep the voluntary Tier 2 account open if the mandatory Tier I retirement account is closed.
Going back to the annuity purchase for a moment, if I choose an annuity plan with an add-on feature like return of purchase price upon my death, how does that affect the monthly payout I receive while I'm alive?
This is a classic actuarial trade-off. An annuity is essentially a contract against longevity risk.
Okay.
When you add features like return of purchase price to a nominee, you are increasing the liability and the risk that the insurance company is assuming.
Do they have to hedge that risk?
They do. Therefore, the resultant guaranteed monthly payout to you, the annuitant, will be lower than a pure life annuity without that feature.
So I'm paying for the safety net for my heirs with a reduced monthly income during my own retirement.
That's the trade-off in a nutshell. Hashtag TADFATCHICS, tax advantage and implications.
The tax treatment of any long-term savings scheme is often the deciding factor for people.
Absolutely.
The NPS is frequently touted as EE exempt. Exempt meaning contributions, accumulation, and withdrawal are generally tax-free. Let's confirm the specifics of the tax treatment at the time of a normal exit at age 60.
Let's do it.
We know up to 60% is paid out as a lump sum. How is that portion treated by the taxman?
This is the massive financial incentive. It's a key feature of the NPS. The 60% of the accumulated pension corpus withdrawn as a lump sum is entirely tax-exempt at the normal exit stage.
Completely tax-free.
Completely. If you have 1 crore accumulated, you can withdraw or 60 lakh tax-free.
And what about the mandatory 40% portion that has to be used to buy the annuity?
The mandatory 40% of the corpus used to buy an annuity shall not attract any tax at the time of buying the annuity. The capital itself, the purchase price, is tax-free at that moment of transaction.
So that confirms the exempt status for the withdrawal of the capital.
It does.
Here's the critical point, though, and the one that I think confuses a lot of new subscribers.
Yeah.
While the capital used to buy the annuity is tax-exempt at purchase, how is the actual ongoing monthly pension income I receive from that annuity treated?
This is the essential caveat to that whole EE structure. The monthly pension income is not tax-exempt. The subsequent pension earned from the annuity will be taxed as ordinary income under the head salaries in your hands as the annuitant.
So it just gets added to my other income for the year?
Exactly. That
Okay.
pension amount is added to your total income in that financial year and taxed according to your prevailing income tax slab rates, just like any other salary or regular income stream.
That makes sense. The government ensures the capital is secure but taxes the income derived from it. Right. Beyond the exit stage, what is the specific targeted tax deduction available under the old tax regime that encourages people to contribute to the NPS early in their careers?
This specific tax incentive is a powerful reason for high-income earners to opt into the scheme.
Okay.
Under the Income Tax Act, Section 80 CCD 1B allows for an additional deduction on investment up to the extent of Rs. 50,000.
And that's on top of the usual deductions.
Crucially, yes. This deduction is over and above the general Rs. 1.5 lakh limit set under Section 80C. It provides a unique extra opportunity to reduce your taxable income, promoting early and aggressive saving. #Tag7. Broader context and final details.
We've covered the core structure, the investment mechanics, the tax framework. Let's finish with some final administrative and contextual details that every subscriber really needs to know.
Good idea.
First, what is the age range for eligibility to join the NPS voluntarily?
The eligibility window is actually quite wide and flexible. Any Indian citizen in the age group of 18 years and 70 years is eligible to join NPS on a voluntary basis under the All Citizens model.
Up to age 70.
Up to age 70. That's significant. It accommodates people who may be self-employed and want to begin saving late, or those who wish to extend their retirement savings past the traditional retirement age.
We discussed the critical role of nominees, especially in ensuring the corpus goes to the right people upon death.
Yes.
The source material notes a very specific mandatory rule regarding updating nominations after a major life event, marriage. What is that rule?
This is a crucial administrative step that is so often forgotten, but it has massive legal consequences.
What happens?
Upon marriage, the subscriber is mandatorily required to make a fresh nomination.
And if they don't?
Critically, any nomination made before such marriage shall be deemed to be invalid.
Invalid. So the old nomination to, say, a parent or sibling is just void.
Void. The regulatory philosophy here is clear. The law prioritizes the newly acquired spouse and family, and the subscriber must explicitly redesignate their retirement wealth distribution to reflect that new family unit.
Finally, the NPS is aimed at market-linked retirement savings for the organized and self-employed sector. Is there a related complementary scheme that specifically targets the financially vulnerable, unorganized sector with a guaranteed income?
Yes, there is. That complementary scheme is the Atal Pension Yojana, or APY.
And APY is different.
It was launched with a very different objective, to provide a guaranteed pension cover to people primarily in the unorganized sector. The defining feature is that guarantee.
So no market risk for them.
Exactly. Subscribers are assured a fixed monthly pension, ranging between Rs. 1,000 and Rs. 5,000 per month, starting from age 60. It removes the market risk for the individual, providing a much-needed Social Security net that contrasts sharply with the market-linked structure of the NPS.
So the APY is a safety net. The NPS is a wealth-building engine. That's a powerful distinction in policy.
It is. #Tag8.
This has been an essential deep dive into the mechanics, rules, and governance of the national pension system. If we had to summarize the main takeaways for our listener, what are the three most powerful elements of this system that make it such a strong retirement vehicle?
I think first, it's the sheer power of the defined contribution model when you pair it with the system's extremely low expense ratio.
That 0.03% to 0.09%.
Yes. That structural cost advantage just exponentially boosts your compounding over 30 or 40 years.
Okay, that's one.
Second, the built-in safeguards of the unbundled architecture and the PFRDA regulation, they ensure security and transparency.
And third?
And third, the financial efficiency of the exit. The ability to withdraw 60% of the accumulated corpus entirely tax-exempt.
Oh.
That's a massive benefit that very few other retirement instruments can offer.
The system provides the structure for security and growth, but ultimately the size of that final corpus depends entirely on the actions and decisions of the subscriber over decades. Given that the entire foundation is built on market returns and compounding, and the fact that an early partial withdrawal just devastates the benefits of compounding, what is the single most critical discipline a subscriber must maintain to maximize their final corpus?
The crucial takeaway isn't just consistency, it's the discipline of zero leakage.
Zero leakage.
You must commit to avoiding partial withdrawals entirely until retirement. Every rupee you take out early fights directly against the benefit of compounding. You're sacrificing future growth for temporary convenience.
So the most successful strategies
Are those defined by consistent contribution, starting as early as possible, and a strict avoidance of any withdrawal until the mandatory retirement age. That single discipline is what maximizes the final corpus potential.
That raises a final provocative thought for you, the listener, to mull over. We learned that if you choose the automated path, the system defaults you to the Moderate Life Cycle Fund, the LC50. We also noted that the government specifically restricts its employees to lower maximum equity caps LC25 and LC50 compared to the 75% available to the all-citizen model.
Right.
If the system has these built-in assumptions about conservative risk profiles defaulting you to 50% equity, the question becomes, what are the implicit risk assumptions the MPS makes about your required retirement income if you don't actively choose your own allocation?
That's a great question.
Are you truly managing your retirement based on your actual income needs and your personal risk tolerance, or are you just passively following the government's implied conservative risk mandate?
Active engagement and a critical review of your allocation are, I'd say, non-negotiable. Don't let the default option define your financial destiny.
Thank you for joining us for the deep dive. We hope this has provided you with the foundational clarity needed to navigate the MPS with confidence and with strategic